Hey friends, I had something that I would describe as like a minor breakthrough last night, and it's not really new information, but it's sort of a new perspective on existing information that it kept me up all night. I couldn't really sleep, and I came down and had breakfast, and I'm gonna go back up and bathe and sleep. But it's that. So it's about structure and containers. So how I'm thinking about it. And I basically just realized that I have expressed frustration on multiple occasions with several different things. Not necessarily frustration, but an aversion, right? And it's a bunch of things. It's book clubs is one, therapy is another, working with editors when writing. What else? I had a tweet about this. Book clubs, writing, editors. Book clubs, editors. Maybe this wasn't a good idea because I'm kind of sleepy. But basically, online courses, classrooms, anything where there is a certain structure, and I'm tempted to say rigid structure, but I know that the structure need not necessarily be rigid. But anything where there's a structure that I don't like. And I don't have a problem with the underlying spirit of the thing, and I feel like if I examine my life, I do receive editing in a way. I do receive therapy in a way. I do receive an education in a way. I just don't like the classroom, and I've often kind of bumped against other people on these things without quite meaning to. I find that I feel like I'm just expressing my preferences. And I try to be careful not to say things like those things are bad. I've never ever said the phrase therapy is bad. I'm very careful about not saying stuff like that. And I have people who I don't even want this to be about therapy at all, and I want this to be about structure and like structure of any kind. I'm just so averse to it. And I'm not saying that structure is bad. Structure can be good, and I'm sure it's very good for a lot of people. And like most of humanity, I think, thrives on structure, and I mostly don't. Not again, it's like nitty-gritty depending on how you gotta get into the nitty-gritty details to really make sense of it. But you can see it even with my videos, right? Like I do these rambly stream of consciousness videos. It's not that I can't do tightly edited, scripted, structured content. I don't want to. And it makes me feel dead inside to do it. And I feel a compulsion to follow my bliss, follow my interest, follow my... do I wish it was structured better? Kinda, but the thing is that I'm not in a rush, and I see all of this as part of an exploratory phase. So I think the way I conceive of things, so education, therapy, editing, I think of these things as having very long cycles, and with regards to like book clubs, for example, it turns out lots of people use book clubs to socialize, and somehow that just kind of slipped my mind. I don't know, it didn't occur to me, because that's not how I like to socialize, and that's not how I like to do scholarship or like book reading. And I think of it as scholarship. I've loved books all my life. I've always loved reading, I've always loved writing, I've always loved analyzing books, and I like to do it slowly, bit by bit, over years and years, right? And yeah, meeting people is fun, and hanging out is fun. There's a cute giant dog. I don't know, I can't show you. But yeah, I really hate containers, and being able to, I could have told you like a year ago that I don't like structure. Like, I've growing up, I just never really liked structure, and there's some kind of chicken or egg, some kind of like, maybe if you had grown up with a healthy relationship with structure, you would like structure. Yeah, maybe, but like maybe if I was born to another family, I would be a girl, right? I don't know. Like it's very challenging to play what if when you live with the what is, right? When you live with what is, what if can be interesting to think about, but it doesn't change the fact that you're going to live with the consequences of what is. And what is, in my experience, is that I really don't like structure. And I realized this mid-conversation in like the replies to a comments on one of my drafts of one of my documents. Even my hair fucking hates structure. Right. What was I going to say? Yeah, so somebody was asking me, kind of probing to ask about my relation. Fucking mosquito. It's an Aedes mosquito. Check that I didn't get. Did I? Fuck. This. Where was I going with that? It's fucking one of those mosquitoes. Right, the conversation about editing, and I've written a lot and I have experienced a lot of criticism of my writing over the years. Some of it good, a lot of it not that great. I mean, some of it constructive, some of it unhelpful, some of it outright malicious, some of it like mean, cruel. I've endured so much of it, it doesn't even like emotionally affect me that much anymore. Like I can write my own negative reviews in advance of the stuff that I work on. I can. In fact, when I write my books, I write my own negative reviews while editing my own books. Like I know what my flaws and faults are, and I know the effort that will be required to address them. And there's like a gradient or like a threshold. There's a gradient of the effort required to correct something, and I cut it off before it gets too much for my intents and purposes, right? And I think of my earlier work as seeds for my future work. So my shit will be well edited 30 years from now. It will, I promise. It's just that if you're seeing my early stuff, it's gonna be a mess, and I deliberately make it messy. I don't seek out mess. It starts out messy, and I clarify it as much as I can to the point that I don't feel like doing it anymore. Basically, that's my process. And even now, I think that I spend more time editing in my head than I should, and I spend more time, even in conversations with people. The conversations that I try to have conversations that are exploratory, that bring me to new territory, and that just gets messier because new territory doesn't have existing frameworks and existing language for talking about things. And so the more you go into unexplored territory, the harder it will be to edit. But anyway, I don't want to talk about editing. I want to talk about structure. Right, and so this person did me a favor really by leaving comments that were very thoughtful and critical, right? Or kind of critical. And he said something like, it's interesting that you would welcome comments, right? But you say you don't want to work with an editor. Like, does this mean that if you were to Venmo me $1, that makes my criticism no longer relevant to you? And no, and I say no, and he also said no. He's like, that doesn't seem to be what's going on here, so there's something else going on. And I'm like, yeah, because what I dislike is not paying money. I'm happy to spend money. You can ask my wife. I am very irreverent with money. I have no interest in saving money. I don't spend much, but I don't go out of my way to save much either. But what I want to avoid is I want to avoid the container of a professional relationship with an editor or a therapist or a coach or anybody who will then bring with them some set of expectations of how our professional relationship is going to go. And a lot of people will say things like, you're the client, I'm the professional. If things are not working out, we can just call it quits. I don't like that. Again, it's like my rhythms are so unhinged. Look at me, I'm awake now at like 7 a.m. I slept at 3 a.m. I slept at 4 a.m. Slept like 3 hours, had breakfast, gonna shower, gonna go back to bed. This is how I operate. I tweet, like 5,000 times a month. When I'm gonna get into editing with someone, I will go back and forth so much that they run out of steam. This is the way I am. It's really I feel like the challenge is conveying to people how fucking weird I am. And it's like, if I don't convey it adequately at the start, they are gonna describe me subsequently as a client from hell, a weirdo. Like, it's not. I don't mind being described as a client from hell, but I just don't want to play that game. You know, I just don't want to go down that decision tree. I would like my preferences to be respected. You know, and I find it interesting that trying to get your preferences respected is challenging when some people will interpret that as you thinking that you're better than them, right? Which I don't. In some ways, the problem is that I'm worse than you. The problem is that I was traumatized as a kid in school, and containers make me want to throw up. They make me want to hurt myself or somebody else. It makes me want to be violent. You know, it's like sometimes people only seem to listen when some bad shit actually happens, and I'm like it takes all of my restraint to avoid bad shit from happening, and I almost sometimes wonder, like, would I just get more mileage from making bad shit happen? You know, my tattoo was like, so many people said, are you sure you want to get your first tattoo like around your neck? I'm like, yeah, I know, yeah, and I did, and like, no, like, even the tattoo artists were like, whoa, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I'm sure. And I guess we live in a world where people are so uncertain of everything all the time, and so reliant on structure or whatever. Again, I don't want to get to the point where I'm like sour grapes. I'm not super happy with what I've said so far in this video. I'm sleepy, but I just wanted to get some shit out because I feel like I was having trouble sleeping, in part because I hadn't gotten stuff out of my system. And I think I just need to, I think I'm actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to like publish shit more often, even faster, and to hell with people who can't keep up. You know, more content, wow. You know, unedited content, wow. Like, fuck it, who gives a shit? You know, as long as I'm having fun and I'm unburdening myself in a sensible way for myself, I'm not hurting anybody else. Whatever, man. Anyway, I'm gonna watch this video like a year from now and go, what the fuck was wrong with that guy? And you know, and you get that video too, right? Or notes or whatever, and done.